Hi everyone, Allie here from TheFamilyMeeple. Today we're back with the newest pick for the 2022 Advent Board Game Countdown. I am looking at the 24 best new to me games that I played in 2022. In order to make the list, the game has to be something that was new to me in 2022, but it doesn't have to be a game that was published in 2022. Today we're going to be looking at game number 7. Coming in at number 7 is CloudAge. CloudAge was designed by Alexander Pfister and Arno Steinwender. The artwork was by Christian Operer, and the publisher was Nanox Games, and my copy was also published by Capstone Games. So CloudAge is it's sort of a campaign game, although it also includes scenarios that you can play and not have to do it continuously through a campaign. But it is a game that plays solo. So this is a game that was on my most recent 10x5 solo challenge. I actually just finished up my 5th play of CloudAge within the last week, and I have been playing through the campaign mode for the solo. So in CloudAge, you are explorers, I guess, kind of explorers. You are maybe factions. I don't know. You are basically living in this post-apocalyptic world where the cloud militia has taken over everything and the planet is desolated under a cloud cover. And there's not much growing on the ground. It's basically desert under clouds, and you are flying around this desolate landscape in like blimps, or I think you'd call them blimps. So the core mechanics are a card they're not really multi-use, but it's a card tableau building game. And you're also going to be moving across the landscape. So there's a little bit of combat in it to a certain extent, but it's a lot of resource management and a little bit of push your luck in places and a lot of just planning out your actions for maximum efficiency. So your turns are going to be played across a series of rounds. And in the solo, you're just following the round structure. You're not having to really take turns with any sort of AI player in that way. The campaign scenarios have specific guidelines of what it takes to consider the play a success or a win. So the first thing that you're going to do is check to see if there are any book or storyline actions on the campaign cards that are out. And they'll have a little bit of text around the storyline of the campaign, and then they'll also have you making decisions about where to go next and what you want to do within the storyline. So there's different paths that you can follow, which will give you at certain points different kind of tasks that it wants you to complete. So it'll tell you maybe by the next time that a book action comes up in a round, you need to have 3 water resources to turn in. And then if you do, a certain outcome will happen. If you don't, then a certain outcome will happen. So after you've checked for book actions, you're going to run your production, which means you're going to pay energy to produce water, and as you level up, you can also produce victory points. Once you've run your production, you will be flipping over 2 cards from your navigation deck, and your navigation deck starts out with values anywhere from 0 to 3. So you have 1 0, you have 1 3, and then you have a couple of 1s and a couple of 2s in this deck. So you're going to flip over 2 cards. The first card you're going to use to gain resources. Resources can either be energy or a card. And then the second number, which is higher, is going to be your movement value. So after you've collected your resources, you will use your movement to move your airship out across the board. And you're essentially trying to work from the beginning. It's like a long modular board out into the end. You have to end your movement on a city location. There's several cities across the board separated by blank spaces and all kinds of different things that you'll be interacting with as you move your airships around. But you have to end on a city space. when you end on the city space, it's going to have a combat value. And you can decide to fight the Cloud Militia at that city. And your goal is to have a combat value equal to or greater than what's printed on the board for that city. So the way that you do combat in this game is you will have a base combat value that's dependent on your airship upgrades, which at the beginning is going to be 0, and also any cards that you've played during future rounds that increase your combat. So there's cards you can play to do that. If you don't have any combat value, then you can also spend energy to flip over cards from your navigation deck, and then whatever the value of the card is, that will increase your combat value. So if you flip over the 0 in your deck, then that's not super helpful. It doesn't add anything to your combat value. The first one costs 1 energy, and then after that you can pay 2 energy, or you can actually spend victory points to continue flipping over cards from your navigation deck to try to reach the combat value that you need. Engaging in combat is optional, and you can stop at any point in time. Once you've committed, you don't have to continue until you win. It doesn't matter whether you win or not. You are going to take a cube off of your airship player board and add it to that city to show that you visited there. These cubes are actually the game timer. It helps you count down the number of rounds in the game until you get to the end. If you do complete the combat and are successful, there's always a reward that you'll get. A lot of times it's water or it's cards, or other resources, but it's primarily water in most of them. Some of the cities that are further out on the board will also give you victory points when you win those combats. Once you get through the combat phase, then you're going to go into, I think it's called the city phase. And in the solo, there is a small solo board that has 8 of these round marker cubes on it. And the first thing that you'll do in the solo during this phase is you'll move the marker down and take the action that's shown on the board. So this, in a way, simulates a 2-player game, because during this city phase, I'll call it, you will be taking your own main action on one of the boards. And there's a couple different things that you can do. But then when you're not taking your main action, when someone else is taking a main action, you get to take a secondary action. So for example, if I take a main action to do 2 card plays or upgrade actions, everyone else at the table would also be able to do 1 card play or upgrade action. So the solo board just kind of simulates that, where you're going to get extra actions beyond your main action on each of the rounds. Once you've done the actions that are outlined on the solo board, then you get to choose your main action just like you would in a multiplayer game. So like I said, you can do things like going to the location to do upgrades to your airship or to play cards into your tableau. All of the cards are color coded to the phase in which they activate. And so some of them have to do with just straight upgrades or immediate benefits. Some of them will increase your movement. Some of them will increase your combat. And then some of them will give you additional benefits as you take these city actions out on the board. And then some of the city actions are to go to kind of like a scouting mission, and essentially you will prep the game at the beginning with this deck of digital navigation cards that have different resources on them. So you can get energy, cards, metal, or water. And all of these are covered in a sleeve that has a cloud on it. And so you can see part of the information, but you can't really see which of those resources is most abundant in that city that you're visiting. But you'll place your marker out to collect one of the 4 resources, and then you'll take the card out of the sleeve and it will show you how many of that resource you get. You also can get some additional bonuses like a free upgrade action, or being able to ditch cards out of your navigation deck so you can get rid of that 0 out of your deck entirely. And then you get to keep that card and put it into your navigation deck. So that's one of the ways that there's a little bit of deck building in there as well. And then there's also another action when you're playing with not the initial scenario 1 base mode that has these new growth tiles that you can start adding out to the board as an action, or you can just get a benefit from some of them as well. So there's all kinds of different actions that you can take. Once you finish the actions in that city phase, then you go back to the beginning and you're going to do that production and story phase, the movement, and all of those pieces. It just repeats over and over until you get to the end of the game. And your goal in the solo is to meet a certain threshold of points, and also to meet your mission objectives that you will have as private missions. So CloudAge is really fun. I wasn't sure what to think about it when I first got it, but I love the card play elements in the game. It's such a tight decision space of when do you take all of these different actions in the city board? Do you need more cards for your navigation deck? Are you going to work on that deck building? Which cards are you going to play out? Are you going for mainly combat points, very heavy in combat with slower movement? Are you going more towards the movement? Are you going to upgrade your airship because you get points every time you upgrade your airship? Are you going to upgrade yourself on the production board? And then the mission cards that you'll be getting throughout the game, you typically will end up with 2 total. And those will kind of tailor your approach to the game, because you have to complete those mission cards or you'll actually lose stars in the campaign if you haven't completed all of your missions at the highest level. So there's a lot to think about, but it still plays relatively quickly. At least in solo, you can get a game done in about 45 minutes. And it just really blew me away with how much I enjoyed it. Like I said, I finished the 5 games for my solo challenge that I was doing, but the campaign runs through 7 games, so I'm going to try to finish the other 2 games hopefully this month, if I can finish the rest of the games on my challenge first, or early in next year and finish that out. You don't destroy anything. It's not like a legacy game, so you could play through the campaign multiple times, making different decisions and seeing if you can get a better score. Anyway, so that is my number 7, which is CloudAge. Thanks so much again for joining us for this countdown. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for more content, lots of photos of the games that I've been playing. Until then, I hope you have a great holiday season with your family, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.